When the holidays start to feel a bit repetitive, reach for a Sprite Winter Spiced Cranberry and put your twist on tradition. A bold cranberry and winter spice flavor fusion, Sprite Winter Spiced Cranberry is a refreshing way to shake things up this sipping season. And only for a limited time. Sprite. Obey your thirst.
Welcome back to Fine Tuning with Drew Taylor, your one-stop shop when it comes to animation news and commentary. I'm entertainment writer Jim Hill, and Mr. Taylor, whose writings in the industry you can regularly read over on The Wrap, and whose musings on the Mission Impossible movies you can still listen to on Light the Fuse, the official Mission Impossible podcast. Drew and I are recording this week's show on Sunday, December 7th, 2025, and it has been a busy week for Mr. Taylor. By the way, before we get started here, Drew, I want to say I really enjoyed the article that you wrote this past week about Frank Gehry.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, a lovely piece. Animation fans probably know this titan of architecture from his work on the Walt Disney Concert Hall in downtown Los Angeles. And we lost Gehry this past Friday, December 5th, at the age of 96. And Drew's piece over on The Wrap does a really great job of summing up Frank's career, and I urge fine-tuning listeners to seek it out and read it. And also, we missed you on last week's show, but how was Palm Springs? You and Katie have a good time?
We had a lovely time. The dog had a lovely time. My mom came out for a few of the days, so it was just, it was great all around. And thanks for holding down the fort, Jim. I was publicly scolded for not being on this show, so yeah.
Oh, I didn't hear about that. On the other hand, you know, the trip ended with a little excitement because you had to drive back to LA on Monday in time for, was that the first official screening of Avatar Fire and Ash, or had they been?
It was the second screening. There was one on Sunday, and so I was there on Monday. Mm-hmm. And of course, Jim, by the end of the week, I was already doing a Q&A for Avatar. So I did one last night on the lot. So if anybody was at that, I appreciate you coming.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, this James Cameron film does not open in theaters till December 19th. And so you led a Q&A on the Fox lot, but
Disney lot, Jim. That's the good thing about the Disney buying Fox, is that I had to drive 4 minutes down the street, but I got to talk to so many amazing people. It was great. It was really great. Yeah.
Okay. Now, speaking though, are you yet allowed to talk about Avatar Fire and Ash?
I think so. Yeah, sure. I mean, I loved it. I thought it was great. I was sort of gripping Katie's hand until she, had to shake me off because it was so exciting. Yeah, I really, really thought it was terrific. And I can't wait for everybody to see it on December 19th. Yeah.
Okay. And remember, folks, one of the reasons that Drew is leading or was leading this Q&A is because, of course, it's award season. And by the way, are there any other panels you'll be moderating or, in the coming week or so? Anything we need to be aware of?
Jim, you know that I never know. I just get a call and say, show up to this, parking lot. Off the 405, and I do it. I'm there.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Well, now, just a reminder, folks, that again, we are so seriously into award season that the Golden Globe nominations are announced tomorrow, Monday, December 8th. But you wanted to also remind folks that the Critics' Choice, the early nominees have been announced for that as well, and we now know what's being considered for animated features. Is that correct?
That's correct. I always love talking about the Critics' Choice, Jim, because I'm a member, so I always love to see my votes being, reflected in the nominations. Mm-hmm. So this year's nominees are Arco, Elio, In Your Dreams, K-Pop Demon Hunters, Little Amelie, or the character of Rain, and Zootopia 2, which I think is probably what we figured they would be, right?
Yeah. I mean, we were kind of hoping for a flow-like thing to bubble to the surface, but Arco and Little Emily are potentially that this time around, right?
Absolutely. They're the beloved foreign language kind of spoilers in the race. But it'll be interesting to see because there are 6 nominations for Critics' Choice and only 5 for the actual Oscars. So I'm very curious what will be nominated in the coming weeks. But yeah.
Okay. Well, all right. Let's see what happens. And anyway, folks, long story short, lots of animation-related news this week, and we'll get to that in a sec, but we first have to acknowledge our sponsor, and that is, of course, unlockmagic.com, where you can get real discounts on Walt Disney World and Universal Orlando tickets, sometimes upwards of 12% off. Just so you know, Unlock Magic is run by the exact same team behind the DVC rental store and the DVC resale market. And if you're planning a trip to Central Florida in 2026, just pick your dates, grab your tickets, and go. Unlock Magic makes it that easy to rack up some pretty significant savings. Oh, and when you get your tickets, please let the nice folks at Unlock Magic know that it was Drew and Jim who sent you. All right. So now to the news, and let's start with the domestic box office, Drew. And Five Nights with Freddy 2, $63 million in North America. I mean, that is impressive until you remember what the first one did back in October of 2023, right?
Yeah, it made more than 80 million, and it was also playing in theaters and on Peacock at the same time. So this is a theatrical only movie and did considerably less. Yeah.
Okay.
Although this one is supposedly just as miserable as the first one. So, I mean,
Wow, making friends at Blumhouse and Universal right out of the gate. All right. Now, worth noting that by the time the original Five Nights with Freddy ended its 8-week run in theaters in late 2023, early 2024, it had made $291 million worldwide. Five Nights with Freddy 2, if we combine what the film has already sold overseas, $46 million, that's $109 million over the opening weekend. That's more than a third of what the film made last time around over its entire theatrical run. So you have to assume that Universal will be happy with that.
I'm sure it cost about 10 cents to make too, so whatever it makes, they're happy.
Okay. Now, there's happy and then there's ecstatic. And look, Disney has to be flat out thrilled with what's going on with Zootopia 2 right now. I mean, worldwide, $916 million. That's global. Over its second weekend. The current math suggests that it will blow past the $1 billion mark by Wednesday of this coming week, December 10th. And just to be clear, folks, that's not the fastest a movie has ever made it to $1 billion. The record holder still is Avengers Endgame. That's back in 2019 that reached that financial milestone in just 5 days. Managed to beat the previous record holder, Avengers Infinity War. That made $1 billion the year previous, 2018, in 11 days. Something else, Drew. I wanted to ask your thoughts about Avengers Endgame returning to theaters in September of next year. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I saw that. It's interesting. I mean, I guess they're just getting people wound up for Doomsday, which is going to be out next Christmas. But yeah, it's very interesting. Marvel's in a very interesting place right now, Jim, wouldn't you say?
I guess very much so. And I'm also, to be honest, intrigued at where and when Endgame is dropping. We have Spider-Man Brand New Day that gets released in late July of 2026. And as you mentioned, Avengers Doomsday comes out the week before Christmas, December 18th, 2026. So it's kind of nestled right in the middle there. And
also in that mix is Vision Quest which is supposed to drop late 2026 on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
So I wonder if that has any bearing on anything. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know how the shows really inform the movies anymore, but yeah, that's also something to consider.
No, absolutely. But folks, to be honest, we're kind of burying the lead here because the big story, of course, for this past week was Netflix. Well, it's supposed to be buying a Warner Brothers Discovery for $82.7 billion, But Paramount. How serious do we think this Paramount thing is? Though them, talking about they don't feel like it was a fair auction.
I mean, everything that I've heard is that they are most likely going to mount some kind of hostile takeover bid,
Okay.
but we'll see when that or if that transpires. But it's a really interesting thing. I saw a report today that Ted Sarandos had actually met with Trump in the last couple of weeks to kind of like grease the wheels.
Ooh,
so
okay.
We'll see. I mean, in any other administration, Jim, this would be a huge red flag and a huge antitrust issue. But
yeah,
where we are now, Jim, it might just walk right through the process. We don't know.
Well, now it's interesting you mentioned that because for example, face it, the only acquisition of this size that we have, is the Disney acquisition of Fox, which, remember, got announced back in December of 2017. At that point, Disney was offering $52.4 billion for the company, but it was only in stock. And then Comcast came in with its offer of $65 billion, and that was in cash. That was in June of 2018. And so Disney, in order to complete this acquisition, had to sweeten the deal, came back with a mix of cash and stock, $71.3 billion, and the deal finally closes in March of 2019. So think about that. That starts in December 2017. It ends in March of 2019. And this deal, on the other hand, the Netflix Warner Brothers Discovery thing, again, moved like a rocket, right?
Yeah. I mean, it was very, very quick and a lot of bidders. From what we understand, Comcast will not be bidding on Warner Brothers Discovery at this point. But there's also the thing about, is it going to be the divested version of Warner Brothers Discovery with a lot of the linear channels bundled and spun off?
Yeah.
Or will it be the entire package? Yeah. And it sounds like Netflix does not want the linear assets at all.
Yeah, I saw a story today that, the cable channels will not be included in the sale. But and again, that was my understanding, that one of the reasons that they wanted to move as fast as they did was that Zaslav was getting ready to split the company up in 2027. And again, just going to be interesting.
Yeah, and Paramount wants the whole enchilada, I should say. Okay. They want the channels and so I don't know. It's going to be an interesting couple of years for sure, Jim.
Okay.
You're right.
Okay. Now, speaking of cable channels that, potentially Netflix, well, now I guess this would be spun off, but Adult Swim and, Cartoon Network, again, it's nighttime programming block, Adult Swim. And we bring that up because we now have a trailer for that project that Drew and I were talking about a couple of shows back, The Elephant. And just the talent involved in this. I mean, Patrick McHale of Over God on the Wall, Ian Jones Quarterly of OKKO, Let's Be Heroes, Rebecca Sugar of Steven Universe, and of course your pal Pendleton Ward, Adventure Time. And so this is being described not as a TV special, but as a creative experience, right? And it debuts December 19th at 11 o'clock on Adult Swim. And now at least we have a trailer to get a sense of what it's going to look like, right?
Yes. And I think that what's interesting about this, Jim, as we've talked about in the past, is they were kind of working independently. And it's based on that old adage, that old kind of exercise of drawing the elephant, one person drawing the trunk, and another person drawing the body, and the other person drawing the tail. And I saw that there were a couple of, did you see that there are like game masters listed? Like a couple of guys from Adventure Time were kind of guiding them a little bit through the process, which is kind of interesting. But it looks fascinating. I can't wait to watch it. The trailer is great. And if you're going to a special screening on the lot next Monday, you might be privy to a great Q&A hosted by me about the elephant. So if you're at that screening, say hello. There you go. There's one, Jim. I remembered that. There you
go. All right. And
yes.
again, I'm just fascinated by this because of the notion of Patrick and Ian and Rebecca and Pendleton, all supposedly worked in isolation. And speaking of working in isolation, Andreas Deja started Mushka, his passion project. What was it, 2013, right? So we're 12 years into this movie finally, making its way out to where people can actually see it. In fact, you discovered that it's doing video on demand next week, right? On December 15th.
Yeah, I don't know how that's going to work exactly, because we'll talk about another short that we were very excited about that just kind of plopped online. But I think you and I are both very excited to finally see it. We've talked to Andreas over the years about this, and he's clearly very passionate about it. It's always great to see something from him. And, we love that Andreas is back in the Disney sphere working on the Villain's Land, but a passion project like this is super exciting, and we're thrilled about it. So I can't wait to see it.
And we'll chase down the details, folks, about the video on demand and try to have that ready for next week's show. Now, on the other hand, Drew just referred to another animated short that we've talked about repeatedly on the show, and that's Aaron Blaze's Snow Bear. Which, again, a kind of surprising twist on this story. It showed up on YouTube like 9 days ago, right?
Yeah, and it's gotten crazy numbers. Did you see how many views it's gotten? It's gotten like millions of views. So exciting.
That's great. Okay. Given all of the time and effort Aaron put into this. Now, what's kind of interesting is that supposedly part of what's going on here with it debuting on YouTube is it's also promoting, I guess, a series of cards that Aaron's created that key off of the film, a collector card.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's cool.
But I hope people who watch it on YouTube then turn around and go to Aaron's site and buy some cards. Let's see. All right. We were just talking about Zootopia 2 and the crazy numbers that animated film has done. And so, I got to say, how would you like to be the folks at Sony Columbia Pictures, who are looking at the numbers of, that Zootopia 2 is doing right now, and know that you've got Goat coming out in February 13th of next year that looks suspiciously like it's in a world right next door to Zootopia.
Yeah. I'm really excited about Goat, and I love that they're timing it to the NBA All-Star weekend. So, Jim, expect lots of fun promotional crossovers there. Steph Curry is one of the producers and is a voice of Goat, so it is very entwined with the NBA. And I was really impressed with the footage that I saw at Annecy last year. I'm really excited about this. It's got a really fun visual style, as we have come to expect from Sony, and I can't wait. Can't wait to see it.
All right. Well, and also worth noting here, we didn't mention when we were doing the domestic box office that Wicked for Good has continued to chug along at the box office. In fact, that's within inches of reaching 400 million globally. But before we had the two Wicked films, there were a number of animated trips over the rainbow, which Mr. Taylor and I will discuss after this break. But first, this.
In Walmart's Huluville, time was ticking away. Only a few nights left till the big holiday. But last-minute gifters had no need to worry. Walmart Express Delivery got their gifts in a hurry. From Nintendo to Nespresso and Lego Flowers, they could check off their lists in as fast as an hour. All of Who'Newville, East, West, South, and North could order gifts up until 5 p.m. on December 24th. So this holiday, just do as the Who's do. With gift delivery this fast, they all gasped. From Walmart, who knew? Subject to availability, terms and fees apply.
My name is Percy Jackson. Getting in trouble is like breathing for me.
The hit series returns to Disney Plus and Hulu.
The danger the camp is under is greater than you can possibly imagine.
For the key to our survival, 3 of you must quest to the Sea of Monsters.
Let's go do the impossible.
Percy Jackson and the Olympians. New season 2 episode premiere December 10th on Disney Plus and Hulu. Learn more at disneyplus.com/what's on.
Dripping in gold? That's cool. Dripping in Velveeta's supremely creamy golden cheesiness? That's respect. Elevate your drip with Velveeta's range of outrageously delicious dips and dishes. Shells, cheese, melty blocks, and heat and eat queso that go all in on indulgence. Flex on your fam with a creamy, cheesy masterpiece and go all in on what you love with Velveeta. Respect the drip and satisfy your cravings. Bring home the drip with Velveeta.
And we're back. But before Mr. Taylor and I head over the rainbow for this week's feature, which is where bluebirds fly, I need to talk about Bluey. And again, you know, we've talked about this Australian shepherd on the show before. Bluey,
he's out of prison, Jim, or she's out of prison. Is that what we're going to say?
There we go. Yes. Finally, yes. This animated series debuted in Australia back in October of 2018, and Disney snagged the rights for Disney Junior in 2019. If we jump ahead 5 years, Disney acquired the theme park and cruise rights to this character in December of last year, 2024, and that's when we also learned that a Bluey theatrical film would be showing up in theaters in 2027. But in between that, we got the Bluey characters were on the cruise line, but only for cruises out of Australia or New Zealand this past year. And now we have Bluey turning up at Disneyland starting on March 22nd in the Fantasyland Theater and in Bluey's Best Day Ever, a stage show. And later next year, Disney's Bluey will be showing up in Conservation Station at Disney's Animal Kingdom. So I think Len and I were talking about this over on Disney Dish, Drew, and it's just like, picture the poor parents who, have a child who wants to see Bluey, who now have to push this child in their stroller to the farthest possible point in Disney's Animal Kingdom. Not only that, they have to get on a train to get there. And I want to say, do they have a restaurant out at Conservation Station? Do they have a merch shop?
I've only had catered meals out there, so I know there is the possibility of it, but I love Conservation Station, Jim. I'm obsessed with that porcupine that we met.
Yes.
That has the long tail.
Nancy was just talking about him the other day. Yes, Drew is referring to, what was it? Was that the which of the Disney animals?
I think it was it was Lion King or something. Something Lion King.
Yeah, because I remember we got to talk with Ernie Sarbella, and I want to say pandas.
Yes.
Drew and I got to go to a lovely press event there, where we had a lovely catered meal and got up close with a porcupine. But I don't.
If you've ever wanted to see the voice of Pumbaa mystified by rivers of light. Jim and I have every excruciating detail on that one.
It's interesting watching Ernie try to find something nice to say. It's like, they stayed afloat. That was very nice. Anyway, speaking of the Bluey movie, which right now is scheduled to arrive in theaters August 6, 2027. Drew, I wanted to point out that the Simpsons movie 2 that Disney recently revealed is also coming out in 2027. That's got a release date now of September 3rd, so less than a month apart from the Bluey film, that's not going to hold, right?
Well, I think it was originally July 2027,
It was,
right?
Yeah.
Did you see that terrible Simpsons thing that they did for Ella McKay, the new James L. Brooks movie that is supposed to be absolutely terrible?
No.
They did a whole animated thing where Lisa and Marge go and see it, and they're talking about it afterwards. It's really bad. It's like some of the worst kind of synergy you could expect, but it does hold water to my theory that Ella McKay was only made so that James L. Brooks would agree to do another Simpsons movie. So, as I like to say, Ella McKay died so Simpsons 2 could live.
Wow.
But yeah.
Okay. And again, this is why you listen to this podcast, folks. So, all right. Other reason you listen to this podcast is we continue stories sometimes. And on last week's Fine Tuning, we talked about the Rainbow Road to Oz, which was Walt Disney's productions came within inches of making in 1957. Now, weird little bend on the story, Drew. December 3rd, 1961, and this is just days before Disney's Babes in Toyland, the live-action musical fantasy that Walt opted to make at Disney Studios instead of Rainbow Road to Oz. And A.H. Wheeler, who is an entertainment writer for the New York Times, publishes a brief story where he talks about how what Walt is looking to do after Babes in Toyland arrives in theater, and evidently that's circling back on Rainbow Road to Oz. And Wheeler describes how a spokesman of the studio told him that the Rainbow Road to Oz will be a live-action feature that picks up where MGM's The Wizard of Oz left off, and story will detail Dorothy's adventures once she returns to the land of Oz, where she'll have encounters with characters like the nephew of the Wicked Witch of the West. And Wheeler then goes on to say the film won't be arriving in theaters till 1963 at the earliest, but Rainbow Road to Oz will be a multi-million-dollar production, and it will combine live action and animation. And what's interesting, Drew, is this jives with something Ward Kimball once told me. He told me how he had seen an animation test for the scene for a thing that was going to go into an Oz movie that Walt wanted to make, and what always intrigued me about when Ward told me this, he said he'd seen the pencil test while Babes in Toyland was in production, not before. So I guess that this was still perking at the studio in the early 60s. But again, after Babes in Toyland doesn't do as well at the box office as Walt had hoped, in December of 61, Walt opts to pause Rainbow Road to Oz and instead makes Mary Poppins, and we know what happened there. But another thing I'm pretty sure bothered Walt in regard to making an Oz movie was by 1956, L. Frank Baum's original book, The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, had already slipped into the public domain, which meant that anybody in Hollywood could now use these characters. And what's kind of interesting about this is the first of these, The Tales of the Wizard of Oz, actually shows up September of 1961. This is just 3 months before Walt reveals that he's considering reviving the Rainbow Road to Oz. And this is a syndicated series of 5-minute-long cartoons for television that are produced by Rankin Bass, the very same company that 3 years and 3 months later made what many consider to be the first animated holiday special, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Anyway, there's 110 episodes of The Tales of the Wizard of Oz produced, and to make sure that they don't run afoul of MGM's lawyers, the version of the Wizard of Oz characters that appear in this animated series are obviously different than the ones found in the MGM film from 1939. For example, Tin Woodsman, the Scarecrow, and the Cowardly Lion all have names in this TV show. The Tin Woodsman is named Rusty. The Scarecrow is called Socrates because he's now supposed to be smart. And the Cowardly Lion is called Dandy Lion. Never mind. Also, Dorothy has silver slippers, as she did in the original L. Frank Baum book, rather than ruby slippers. That was changed for the 39 film because, this production at MGM was going to be shot in Technicolor, and early camera tests showed that the ruby slippers look better on camera than silver ones did. Anyway, MGM, that film studio really wanted what Walt Disney Productions already had, which was a weekly TV series that not only gave Disney an outlet for a number of the older titles that it had in its film library, but also allowed the mouse to let the folks at home know about motion pictures that Disney Studio would soon be setting out into theaters. And MGM tried to get an anthology series like the weekly Disneyland TV series going in the 1955-1956 season. In fact, what's especially weird about this story, Drew, is this half-hour-long show, the MGM Parade, also aired on ABC. Not only that, it aired right after the Disneyland TV show on Wednesday nights. Disney's weekly series, which was an hour long, ran from 7 to 8:30 on Wednesday nights, whereas the MGM Parade ran on that same network starting at 8:30 on Wednesday nights. And it debuts September 14th, 1995. 34 episodes are produced. But by May of the next year, 1956, the MGM Parade is off the air, a victim of low ratings. But MGM still wants a Disney-like weekly TV series, something that they can then use to repurpose some of that studio's more family-friendly films, which now brings us to Off to See the Wizard, which debuts on ABC on Friday, September 8th, 1967. And what's interesting about Off to See the Wizard is this project clearly is based on the MGM film from 39. It even makes use of two of that movie's best loved songs, Over the Rainbow and We're Off to See the Wizard. But what's genuinely interesting about Off to See the Wizard is the intro to the show, plus vignettes that are scattered through each episode of the show, and then the tail end of each episode. They're animated. In fact, these pieces of Off to See the Wizard are animated by animation legend Chuck Jones's production company and feature stylized versions of the Wizard of Oz characters from 39. And MGM clearly expected big things from Off to See the Wizard, which is why they licensed seemingly to dozens of toy companies the rights to produce products that were based on the Chuck Jones version of the Wizard of Oz characters from 39. And this aired on Friday nights on ABC starting at 7:30. Again, very much in the model of the Disney Wonderful World of Color. It was an hour-long anthology show that showed family-friendly films from MGM Library like Flipper and Clarence the Cross-Eyed Lion, Lily, and The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. But because Off to See the Wizard had only a 1-hour runtime, movies would typically split in two, with the second half of the film airing on this same TV show the following Friday. Gotta say, the animated parts of Off to See the Wizard were and still are charming. Jones and his team did some great work here. On the other hand, the films that MGM chose to showcase on this TV show weren't all that great, which is why the series was canceled due to low ratings by February of the following year, 1968.
So was the animation just interstitial stuff, Jim? Like at the beginning and at commercial breaks and stuff?
I mean, it's just, in fact, you can go on YouTube right now and catch a number of these bits, and yeah, that they would typically be, the opening and closing of the show was standard. They would mix things up with little interstitials that keyed off of the film for that week. But again, this is all new animation that plays to the title of the show that week. So all told, I want to say, what is it? Of the 25 episodes that were produced, Chuck Jones's outfit produced an hour's worth of new animation. But they're worth taking a look at today, if only to hear June Foray as Dorothy, Mel Blanc as the Cowardly Lion, and Dawes Butler as the Wizard of Oz. And speaking of an amazing vocal cast for an animated Oz project, when we get back from this break, we're then going to talk about Journey Back to Oz, a film that took more than a decade to reach the big screen. But first, this.
This episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. Healthcare professionals can lead their careers with LinkedIn. Discover jobs by specialty, preferred shifts, and even desired salary. From mental health therapists to radiology technicians, it's now faster and easier for healthcare professionals to find the right fit. Learn more at linkedin.com/healthcare. Side effects may include faster job placement, improved work-life balance, and increased career satisfaction.
This episode is brought to you by McAfee.
I found this great place to stay this weekend.
Click on the link and book it.
Oh, wow. McAfee alerted me that this site is fake and even blocked it.
Cyber criminals create fake sites to steal your passwords and financial data. McAfee identifies and blocks these sites to keep you safer online, so you can book your trip without worry. Learn more at McAfee.com/online protection.
John Legend, Sheryl Crow, Elvis Costello, and Alanis Morissette star in the MGM Plus original series, Words and Music. Iconic artists share intimate performances and the stories behind the songs. New episodes Sundays on MGM Plus.
So I have to ask, Drew, you have watched a lot of bad film over your years of working as entertainment writer. Have you ever managed to actually see Journey Back to Oz from Filmation?
No, is this, judging by your recommendation, not something I should probably jump on, is what I'm getting.
It's a troubled project. In fact, and again, what's interesting is we were just talking about 1961 and how here's Walt thinking about reviving Rainbow Road to Oz, and here's the Tales of The Wizard of Oz that Rankin Bass did in September that same year. But the very next year, 1962, Filmation Associates announced that they too are getting an Oz project up out of the ground. This full-length animated feature, to be entitled Journey Back to Oz, is ambitious, if only for its vocal cast, which is made up of A-listers from the 1960s. I mean, they had Milton Berle as the voice of the Cowardly Lion. Danny Thomas was the voice of the Tin Woodsman. Mickey Rooney is the voice of the Scarecrow. Paul Lynde is Jack Pumpkinhead. Ethel Merman is the voice of Mombi the Witch. And, well, to give this new animated film some connective tissue with MGM's live-action Wizard of Oz from 1939, Margaret Hamilton, who of course had played the Wicked Witch in that movie, is now voicing Aunt Em in Journey Back to Oz. But what really made Oz fans sit up and take notice was that Filmation, the voice of Dorothy, they hired Judy Garland's daughter, Liza Minnelli, who was only 16 when this project was put in production. And by the way, also worth noting that Judy herself was only 16 when MGM's Wizard of Oz first started shooting in October of 1938. But by the time the 60s roll around, Hollywood has gotten far more strict when it comes to child labor laws, and so, which is why Liza in 1962 was considered too young to enter into a business agreement with a film association, which is why it was her mother, Judy, rather than Liza herself, who signed Minnelli's employment contract on Journey Back to Oz. Anyway, this animated feature, like the live-action Oz from 1939, it is a musical and features 12 original songs by four-time Academy Award winner Sammy Cahn and three-time Oscar-winning lyricist Jimmy Van Heusen. And the vocal cast, they record all of the film's dialogue and songs, animation is underway, and then Drew, Filmation runs out of money. Which is why Journey Back to Oz winds up being shelved for the next 8 years. Okay, we now jump ahead to September of 1968, and Filmation catches a break. They produce The Archie Show, which airs on CBS as part of that network Saturday morning lineup. It's such an enormous success that CBS asked Filmation to expand the show for the 69-70 season. So Filmation creates Sabrina the Teenage Witch, which, when it's paired with The Archie Show, creates an hour of animation that then dominates its time slot on Saturday mornings. And on the heels of this rating success, money finally begins pouring into Filmation. And on a parallel track, Liza Minnelli's star is begun to rise around the same time. In fact, late 1970s, she's cast to appear in Bob Fosse's film version of Cabaret, which will go before cameras February of the next year, 71. And Filmation, well, they realize they have this uncompleted version of Journey Back to Oz still sitting on the shelf. And since Judy Garland died in June of 69, the public's interest in anything Oz related has just grown stronger and stronger and stronger. And so here's Filmation with a new Oz film already half completed with voice work by Judy's daughter, Liza. And Minnelli's well on her way to becoming an Academy Award-winning actress. So the folks at Filmation are thinking, well, look, if we can get Journey Back to Oz finished before Cabaret arrives in theaters, we could really cash in here. So they take some of that Archie money and they pull the half-completed animated feature off the shelf. And 8 years after they started, they try to revive the project, which isn't easy, Drew. Take, for example, the film score. Sammy Kahn was so convinced that Journey Back to Oz was dead in the water. He actually takes songs that he wrote for that animated film and then rewrites them, recycles them for Jack and the Beanstalk, which is this live-action animated TV production that Gene Kelly did for Hanna-Barbera, which aired on NBC in February of 67. And by the way, Kahn puts minimal effort into recycling the songs that he and Jimmy Van Heusen had originally written for Journey Back to Oz for this Jack and the Beanstalk thing. For example, Oz had this song called A Woggle Bug that in Jack and the Beanstalk then became the Woggle Bird. Which, by the way, you can go on YouTube right now, and it's a wonderful little song and dance number by Gene Kelly that where he dances a tango with two giant animated birds. Filmation also has other issues when it comes to reviving Journey Back to Oz. Take, for example, now missing voice recordings. Danny Thomas had recorded the Tin Woodsman song and dialogue back in 1962. Now in 1970, Filmation's production team, well, they can find the songs that Thomas had recorded, but not the Tin Woodsman's dialogue tracks. And so Filmation reaches out to Thomas, and he says, I'll be happy to return to the studio to re-record the Tin Woodsman's dialogue. All you have to do is pay me the same amount that you paid me back in 1962. And which is why the Filmation people then hire Larry Storch, the character actor who played Corporal Agarn on F Troop, to come in and read the Tin Woodsman's dialogue, because Larry did a great Danny Thomas impression, I guess is what we're saying. Anyway, Journey Back to Oz finally arrives in theaters December of 1972, 10 months after Cabaret debuts, and that Bob Fosse film, goes on to win 8 Academy Awards, Best Director, Best Actress, and Best Supporting. Journey Back to Oz doesn't win any awards, and it comes and goes very quickly. What's worth noting, though, is it was shown on CBS a couple of times in the 1970s, with, I know you'll love this, Drew, a weird sort of live action wraparound. One of the other shows that Filmation was famous for producing was Fat Albert and the Cosby Kids, which you'll remember, Bill Cosby appeared in live action vignettes on that show. So, mid-1970s or thereabouts, Filmation executives persuaded Bill to shoot some live action scenes that were then inserted into the CBS primetime broadcast of Journey Back to Oz, which CBS tried mightily to turn it into a holiday special, sort of along the lines of the annual airings of The Wizard of Oz from 1939. And in these scenes, Bill Cosby is supposed to be the Wizard of Oz, who is now traveling back to Kansas in his balloon. And en route, the wizard finds that two munchkins have stowed away and on the balloon with him, and because they want to spend Christmas with Dorothy. And for lots of reasons, Drew, it's been over 40 years since his holiday version of Journey Back to Oz last aired on CBS back in 1984. But that said, nothing ever goes away on the internet, so if you Google Bill Cosby Journey Back to Oz, you can actually watch these scenes that were shot, for the wraparound for Journey Back to Oz.
Hopefully Dorothy poured her own drinks when Cosby was around. But, yeah.
You said that. I did. Okay. There have been other animated Oz-related projects, including one that featured Tom and Jerry that actually made use of material that MGM had put in development for a never-produced sequel to the 1939 version of Oz, and maybe we'll talk about that on next week's fine-tuning. But for now, I think that's going to do it for this week's show. But I do want to remind you folks that if you missed Mr. Taylor like I missed him on last week's show, there's still Light the Fuse, the official Mission Impossible podcast that Drew did with his co-host Charles Hood. Nearly 300 episodes of that podcast sit in its archive, and each of them is loaded with all sorts of amazing behind-the-scenes stories about the film industry, and definitely worth a listen, especially in the coming weeks. If you're driving home for the holidays, you want something to listen to, Light the Fuse is something you want to check out.
If you drive off the road in disgust, I am not personally responsible.
That would only happen if you were listening to the podcast we make here at Jim Hill Media. I mean, we got Disney Dish with Len Testo, or the Epic Universal podcast I do with Eric Hersey. That one is actually pretty good. And likewise, I Want That Too, our Disney merch podcast I do with Eric's lovely bride, Lauren. Also want to remind you about Manufacturing the Magic. That's the themed entertainment history podcast that we host here. That's produced by Noah and Shelley Valladolid. A new episode of that show, which talks about what a big year 67 was for Disneyland. That went up this past Saturday. And just yesterday, or excuse me, again, the day we're recording there, Sunday, a brand new Patreon exclusive where Len Testa, veteran Imagineer Jim Schul, and I walked around Disney's Animal Kingdom back in November and discussed the transformation of that park. That went live, so check that out. And as we run for the curtain here, I want to thank Eric Hersey and David Gray for the great job they do editing and producing this podcast. Also have a quick favor to ask you folks, if you could head over to Apple Podcasts and rate and review, well, not just this show, but also Light the Fuse. Also want to mention social media as we head out the door here. Drew, where can the nice folks find you?
On X and Instagram as Drew Tailored, like a tailored shirt. I have a Threads account, but I don't use it. Okay. So, yeah, follow me there. Send me a note. Let me know what's going on. Yeah.
All right. And as for me, you can find me on X and Instagram as Jim Hill Media, and then over on Facebook as Jim Hill Media News. And that's going to do it for this week, folks. But come back next week, and hopefully Drew can share some stories from the Q&A you're going to lead for the elephant panel. That is so cool, though.
Yeah. I'm excited to watch. I haven't watched it yet, so I can't, maybe purposefully so I don't accidentally give anything away.
There we go. Yeah. There we go. All right. Well, hopefully we'll get to chat about that on next week's show. Until then, thanks for listening, and we will be back soon.
Hey, Ryan Reynolds here, wishing you a very happy half-off holiday, because right now Mint Mobile is offering you the gift of 50% off unlimited. To be clear, that's half price, not half the service. And Mint is still premium unlimited wireless for a great price. So that means a half day, yeah? Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Speeds low after 35 gigabytes if network's busy. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.